Okay, let's unpack. We're talking about September 10th, 2025, a date that has really sent shockwaves through the American political, marking a moment many people are calling a profound turning. Our focus today is on the assassination of Charlie Kirk, a prominent conservative political. His tragic death has, for many, just laid bare the fractured state of public discourse in America.
It really has.
This isn't just, another news story. It feels like a window into the raw nerve endings of the nation.
And what's particularly striking as we started digging into the sources is how quickly and how intensely these really divergent perspectives emerged.
Right.
In the immediate aftermath,
right.
We've meticulously sifted through, a really diverse array of YouTube videos, everything from, raw news reactions, somber tributes, to impassioned commentary, and in some deeply troubling cases, outright celebration.
Yeah, that part is hard to fathom.
It is. And these aren't just isolated opinions, right? They form this kind of mosaic of a society grappling with a truly shocking event. Each piece reveals a different facet of our collective psyche.
So our mission in this deep dive is really to navigate these incredibly complex, often conflicting narratives. We want to try and extract the crucial insights, the emotional currents that reveal the true state of discourse today. It's about understanding not just the horrific event itself, but how people are processing it.
Exactly. Why it resonated so deeply and with such varied reactions.
Right. And ultimately what it might signal for the future of public debate.
Exactly. We're trying to go beyond the headlines here to help you, our listener, understand the core arguments and the raw emotions without getting lost in just the sheer volume of noise. We're aiming for those aha moment, the ones that cut through the information overload, maybe offer a clearer picture of the undercurrents shaping our public square.
So not just what happened.
Not just what happened, but the seismic impact it had on the American political conversation. It's huge.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning then. The event itself, September 10th, 2025, approximately 12:04 p.m. local. Conservative political influencer Charlie Kirk was shot and this was no random act. It occurred very publicly, very deliberately. He was on stage at Utah Valley University.
Right, during one of his events.
Exactly, an America Comeback event, speaking to a large crowd, mostly young supporters.
And these events, as the sources describe them, they were kind of his signature thing, weren't they?
Yeah, his hallmark. Dynamic, high-energy gather designed to engage, activate young conservatives, often held right there on college campuses.
Specifically to debate, right, to present conservative viewpoints to a demographic that, maybe wouldn't typically encounter them otherwise.
Precisely. So the setting itself, a university campus, a public speech, it just amplifies the shock.
Oh, absolutely. And the details surrounding the assassination itself, they really paint a picture of something meticulously planned, executed. Numerous sources highlighted this.
Like what specifically?
Well, the suspect fired a single shot from an elevated position, a rooftop, specifically of an adjacent building on campus.
Okay, so planned vanity.
Right. And the weapon identified. It was an older model, imported Mauser .306 caliber bolt-action rifle, described in the sources as a, quote, hunting or sniper rifle with telescopic sights.
A Mauser .3006. That's interesting. Not exactly a modern assault rifle.
No, it's not. The choice is telling. It's more common as a hunting rifle.
Yeah.
Suggests maybe a shooter with some marksmanship experience, perhaps, but maybe limited access to more, military-grade gear.
Right.
It's not what you typically associate with urban warfare, but it's long-range accuracy, especially with those telescopic sights.
Made it perfect for a precise, distant shot.
Exactly. So this combination, the weapon, the elevated position, it strongly implies premeditation. An assassination to require detailed knowledge of Kirk's itinerary, the venue layout, and the deliberate execution plan, including, presumably, an escape route. It certainly defies any idea this was spontaneous or impulsive.
And the alleged assassin, Tyler Robbins, a 22-year-old white male from Washington, Utah. He wasn't caught in some big police chase initially.
No, the sources say he was actually turned into police overnight by his own father and a minister down in southern Utah.
Wow.
Yeah. After authorities shared surveillance images of the shooter, Robinson was reportedly found wearing clothing consistent with those.
Okay, now here's where it gets, particularly chilling and points directly to those ideological fissures. The alleged ideological markers found on the cartridges.
Cartridges themselves.
Investigators discovered, quote, engraved wording on them expressing transgender and anti-fascist ideology. But very specific, very political.
It's an incredibly specific detail, isn't it? It's a critical piece of the puzzle. Gives a stark insight into the alleged motivations.
Yeah.
But what's crucial here, and something several sources pointed out, is the contrast in how these markings were presented by different outlets.
How so?
Well, While investigators found those direct references, transgender and anti-fascist ideology, CNN, for instance, was reported to have described these simply as, quote, phrases related to cultural issues.
Cultural issues, that's much broader, vague even.
It's a huge difference, right? Transgender and anti-fascist ideology points to a specific, potentially radical, politically charged motive, possibly aligned with certain protest movements or even extremist.
Whereas cultural issues,
it's far more general. And this linguistic choice, as commentators argued, seems like a deliberate media decision, maybe to de-escalate the specific ideological implication, or maybe to avoid inflaming already tense political lines.
Hard to say for sure, but it definitely impacts how the public perceives the motive.
Absolutely. It potentially obscures the direct political nature of the act.
And beyond the cartridges, the family members, they told investigators that Robinson had become increasingly political.
Yeah, expressing strong dislike for Charlie Kirk, for his viewpoints.
They allegedly said he thought Kirk was, quote, full of hate and spreading.
So, not just disagreement, a deeply ingrained perception, from the suspect's perspective, that Kirk's words were actively harmful.
Deserving of severe condemnation, it sounds like. So the alleged motive, it quickly broadens beyond just one violent act, points right to these deep ideological divides in society, where rhetoric isn't just words anymore, but perceived as actionable harm.
Precisely. And this tragic outcome, it forces us to ask that crucial question. How do these deeply held opposing beliefs, especially when they're fueled by intense rhetoric, how do they escalate?
Right. Such a catastrophic, violent outcome.
The sources we looked at suggest things like online echo chambers, a pervasive culture of demonization. They play a significant role. They create a climate where certain individuals might feel not just justified, but, morally obligated to take extreme actions
against people they see as an existential threat.
Exactly. It's about the erosion of that boundary between disagreeing with words and taking what they see as righteous action.
Okay, so let's move on to the immediate fallout. The news hit, immediate shock, profound heartbreak from so many, particularly those close.
The human element was really central in a lot of the commentary.
Yeah, reminding everyone he was a husband to Erica, a father to two very young children, a 3-year-old daughter, a 1-year-old son.
That personal tragedy resonated deep. It humanizes the public figure, reminds everyone of the real personal cost of this kind of...
And the raw emotional outpouring, it was intense.
Oh, incredibly so. Commentators described feeling like they'd lost a close friend, a family member. Some went even further, comparing it to the national grief after losing a president or an MLK.
That's a huge comparison.
It is. And that scale of collective grief, even from people who didn't know him personally, it really highlights the deep resonance public figures have in our hyper-connected world. Through their platforms, these individuals, they become woven into people's emotional lives, their political lives, almost like extended family or guiding voices.
Their presence is just it's constant.
Right. And their sudden absence creates this void that's felt far beyond their immediate circle. It really shows how influential these figures can be, shaping national conscience, provoking these profound emotional responses.
A lot of people also expressed just immense difficulty. Pross kept saying it doesn't seem...
That sense of surrealism was very common.
Likening it to past historical assassins like JFK or RFK, but with this added layer.
The real-time aspect.
Exactly. This wasn't history in a book. It was unfolding right now in the digital. Instant news, instant social media reactions.
One commentator described it as living through history as it happens, but with the added trauma of seeing the immediate unvarnished reactions stream across our screens.
Yeah. It's one thing to read about it later.
Totally different to see its raw impact as it happens, blurs the lines between news and lived experience.
So connecting this to the bigger picture, collective real feeling, it really underscores how deeply public that national conscience.
It really does. It's a testament to their influence, the way their platforms create this kind of, parasocial relationship with their audience.
Right.
And the sudden violent disruption of that relationship played out on this global digital stage, it creates a unique kind of collective trauma, makes the tragedy feel both intensely personal and widely shared, like a national story abruptly interrupted.
And this event also marked a very real, very personal turning point for many people, especially other public figures.
Definitely. Several prominent voices, including Ben Shapiro, who also frequently debates on college campuses, admitted to a significant shift in how they view personal security.
Right, I saw that. Shapiro was cited saying he used to think things like bulletproof vests were overkill in America.
Yeah, like something for war zones, not academic settings.
But now, not anymore. In the stark light of Kirk's assassination, he said he no longer believes that.
And he wasn't alone. Others spoke about this visceral recognition that the landscape had fundamentally changed.
This shift in perception among public figures is profound, isn't it? A truly chilling realization for many.
It is. The assassination forced them to confront the heightened, very tangible danger associated with just expressing political views publicly, seeing it as a definitive turning point for the U.S.
It's not just about political disagreement.
No, it's about physical vulnerability. And many commentators voiced fears that this act would create a chilling effect on open debate,
Leading people to self-censor, avoid certain places.
Potentially, yeah. Fundamentally altering the nature of free speech and engagement in the public square. It implies this new, more dangerous reality where the risks of just speaking your mind publicly are profoundly higher.
Which brings us to that critical, really sobering question. What does it mean for civil discourse when public figures feel physically unsafe just for expressing opinion, even controversial ones?
It changes the whole calculus of engagement, doesn't it?
Entirely. It suggests the arena of ideas isn't just a battle of words anymore, but potentially a battle for your...
And that fear, it could lead to a significant retraction of public discourse, driving it further into these insular echo chambers where perceived safety gets prioritized over open, robust debate.
Which is a profound threat to the foundation of a democratic society, right? Which relies on that free exchange of ideas.
Absolutely, a fundamental threat.
Okay, now here's where the narrative takes that really disturbing, deeply unsettling turn we mentioned earlier.
Right.
Beyond the grief and shock felt by many, this deeply unsettling trend emerged almost immediately. Widespread celebration.
Across numerous social media platforms.
You say TikTok, Twitter X, Reddit, Blue Sky. Basically, the entire digital landscape became this canvas for this disturbing phenomenon.
And one of the most striking aspects looking through the sources was this stark contrast to what many consider traditional American values. Historically, no matter how deep political differences ran, there's typically been this societal expectation. Maybe offer condolences or at least maintain a respectful silence after a public figure's death.
Basic decency somewhere.
Right. But the sources indicate a significant and, to many, utterly dehumanizing departure from that norm. It reveals a level of effective polarization, this visceral emotional hatred of the opposing side that just overrides those traditional norms of respect, even in death.
It's not just disagreement, then.
No, it feels like a fundamental erosion of shared humanity amplified by the digital realm.
And the celebratory content, it wasn't subtle, it wasn't hidden away, it was brazenly public.
Yeah, people reportedly making songs about his death, doing dances to celebratory tunes, creating countless memes.
Commentators described evil individuals rushing to their selfie cams to celebrate, with just a shocking lack of self-awareness or empathy.
And the specific sentiments reported. Explicit statements like Kirk had it coming, or that his death was fully justified because of his political stances.
On things like gender identity, critical race theory.
Right, so this wasn't just passive agreement with the outcome. It was active public delight, a perceived vindication of their own view through violence.
So what does that mean? When a segment of society views the death of a political opponent as a...
It's a critical question. It points to a profound breakdown in shared human decency, a willingness to see adversaries as less than human, stripping them of their personhood in the service of ideological purity.
As some commentators noted, this kind of public, visceral celebration is a symptom of a society where the other side isn't just wrong anymore,
but truly evil, making their suffering or death a justifiable, even desirable outcome. It underscores how deeply moral frameworks have fractured along political lines.
And we even saw specific instances from public figures which only amplified the outrage for many.
Yeah, the Star Trek actors, George Takei, Tim Russ, made comments that drew immediate, significant criticism, condemnation.
Russ, for example, publicly stated, quote, Charlie Kirk and his fellow MAGA Republican mouthpieces have no problems with guns killing children, so to hell with all.
Wow, that kind of rhetoric right after a political assassination.
Poured gasoline on an already raging fire.
And connecting this to the bigger picture, these kinds of statements, especially from public figures with their own platforms, even if they're not directly inciting violence, they reveal a profound lack of empathy, a willingness to dehumanize political adversaries.
They contribute to a climate where these extreme reactions become normalized, right? Instead of condemned.
Exactly. Sources argue that when influential voices publicly wish ill upon or celebrate the demise of opponents, it validates the extreme fringe. It further blurs the lines between robust debate and outright animosity.
It just chips away at any remaining common ground for respectful disagreement, confirms for many that, civil society might actually be collapsing. And it wasn't just actors. Mainstream media figures' public responses also drew significant fire. MSNBC.
Yeah, widely criticized for allegedly blaming Kirk for trying to downplay if this was an assassination attempt.
By initially speculating, some sources reported that it might have been a supporter accidentally firing a gun in celebration.
Right. That framing, especially right after it happened, was seen by many as an attempt to shift blame blame or delegitimize the political nature of the crime.
And then there was the TMZ incident. Employees allegedly heard laughing in the background of their stream when the news broke.
Which led to an apology from Harvey Levin, the founder. Though he claimed the laughter was about something unrelated, a car chase.
Right. But these incidents, regardless of the intent, they just fueled narratives of media bias.
And what's truly telling there is the immediate instinct in those situations, whether it's deflecting blame, minimizing the event, or in some cases outright celebrating.
Yeah.
It suggests this deeply ingrained animosity that for some just overrides even basic human compassion in the face of tragedy.
It makes you ask what kind of societal framework, especially within certain media bubbles, allows for those responses to be not just present, but seemingly acceptable, at least initially.
It speaks to a profound erosion, maybe of journalistic ethics, maybe just basic human decency, shows how far the culture wars have permeated even into reporting a murder.
There was also that significant cancel.
Right. Many commentators noted the sharp iron. Individuals who previously pushed for cancel culture, removing people from platforms or jobs for perceived ideological offenses, now being surprised when their own rhetoric seemed to lead to violence or when they faced consequences for celebrating.
And that pushback was tangible. Numerous people reportedly fired. A DC Comics writer, video game developers, a 911 dispatcher, teachers.
All for their online celebrations.
This perceived double standard, it highlights the intense hypocrisy many observers pointed out, where accountability is fiercely demanded for one side but dismissed or justified for the other.
It raises critical questions about consistency, fairness in our public discourse, the moral compass being used to evaluate actions.
Yeah.
But the swiftness of those consequences people celebrate. It also suggests a growing, albeit maybe selective, societal intolerance for overtly celebrating political violence, even as the rhetoric that might fuel it remains heated.
It's a complex, often contradictory push and pull in the digital where.
Definitely.
Critics also argued forcefully that certain media outlets contributed significantly, maybe even deliberately, to radicalization by constantly demonizing conservatives.
Using labels like fascists, Nazis with alarming regularity, casting entire groups as inherently evil or dangerous.
This constant labeling, they argued, effectively provided a permission structure for violence.
Implying that if someone is truly evil, then extreme measures, including violence, aren't just justified, but maybe even necessary.
It paints a target on perceived enemies, makes them fair game.
And this raises that extremely important, very difficult question. Where is the line between strong political rhetoric and actual incitement to violence?
Yeah.
Some sources argue that constantly calling opponents Nazis or fascists, it absolutely contributes to a climate where violence is seen as justified, creates a moral justification for hatred and ultimately for violence.
It fosters an environment where someone maybe already predisposed to extreme views.
Right. Can internalize these labels and see themselves as acting heroically against an existential threat, even when they're committing horrific acts of violence.
It's a dangerous psychological path. Words become weapons, and the perceived enemy gets dehumanized until their elimination seems righteous.
Exactly.
And the role of social media in this radicalization, that was a pervasive, deeply concerning theme across our sources.
Oh, absolutely. Commentators discuss extensively how algorithms on platforms like TikTok, X, create these incredibly effective echo chain filter bubbles.
Designed to keep you engaged by feeding you more of what you already agree with or what gets the strongest emotional reaction.
Which leads to this dangerous cycle. Dissenting opinions get filtered out. Users are constantly exposed to amplified versions of their own views and increasingly extreme content.
Every issue, no matter how mundane.
Right. Taxes, healthcare.
Right.
It gets framed not as a policy debate, but as a holy war between the righteous and the evil.
This tribal script, as some sources called it, is it deliberate engineering by the platform or just an unintended consequence of engagement-driven design?
Hard to say definitively, but the result is that it leads people to feel morally justified in hating and silencing and celebrating violence.
It's an environment where critical thinking gets replaced by collective nuance die.
And individuals are constantly primed for conflict. The algorithmic amplification creates this feedback loop, reinforcing confirmation bias. Dehumanization makes it incredibly hard to encounter alternative views or empathize with the other side.
Fostering this collective rage that, when you combine it with demonizing rhetoric,
significantly amplifies the potential for extreme action, blurs the lines between online aggression and real-world violence. It's a potent mix.
Okay, let's shift a bit and talk about Charlie Kirk's legacy political impact. It's interesting how he was perceived.
Very much so.
Despite being labeled an extremist, particularly on the left, many of our sources, especially those aligned with him, described him as, well, mainstream, even moderate conservative.
Some even called him frustratingly vanilla at times.
Yeah.
particularly within the Overton window of right-wing commentary.
That perception, frustratingly even, it's a crucial insight into how wide that perception gap really is, about who counts as an...
The Overton window, that range of ideas tolerated in public discourse. For many on the right, Kirk's views, while sometimes provocative, were well within that acceptable range, certainly not radical in their eyes.
And what's fascinating is this portrayal of him as someone who actively sought dialogue, even with those who disagreed.
Right, which contrasts sharply with the idea he was an extremist, unwilling to engage.
Sources noted his evolution, too. Started Turning Point USA when he was just 18.
Yeah, never went to college, but compensated by just voraciously reading. Became an absolute sponge of knowledge, as one source put it.
Evolved from what was described as an awkward persona early on
to an incredibly charismatic speaker, a terrific debater, especially on those college campuses.
Yeah, he was particularly known for engaging students right there on campus, tackling often controversial issues head-on: marriage, traditional family, transgenderism.
Didn't shy away from those debates. Often used statistics, historical arguments, open dialogue to make his point.
His approach seemed to be direct, often confrontational engagement, not just preaching to the choir.
Right. He actively sought out opposition, believed that robust debate was the best way to clarify, to advance conservative ideas, especially among younger people.
So connecting this back, his supporters, they unequivocally believe he was assassinated for truth.
For his bravery in engaging in those challenging conversations, for his steadfast defense of Christian morality.
They saw him as a champion of the founding values, the Judeo-Christian values of the West, which he believed were under assault.
His whole public career, in their view, was a testament to his conviction, his willingness to confront what he saw as destructive ideology.
And Kirk's mission, according to countless supporters those close, it was explicitly about educating, influencing young people
towards what he termed personal morality grounded in the Bible and conservative leading values.
He genuinely believed young people just weren't getting exposed to these foundational ideas in mainstream education or culture.
Many sources highlighted his deep, unwavering faith, his patriotism, as central to who he was, viewing him as this modern-day voice fighting for the soul of America's youth, guiding them back to what he considered traditional American ideals.
Which brings us to that crucial question that came up so much after the assassination. Does violence act goal? Does it silence?
Or does it instead galvanize and create new symbols?
Many sources unequivocally called Kirk a martyr for truth and freedom.
Believing his death wouldn't silence the movement he built, but would instead create an infinite number of more Charlie Kirk.
The argument being that the violence would backfire, turn him into this potent symbol, inspire countless others to take up his cause.
Seeing his sacrifice as a call to action, it transforms a leader into a legend, right? Makes his message resonate even more deeply in his absence.
Looking at the broader implications now, Kirk's assassination was widely, by commentators really across the spectrum, as a chilling, unprecedented escalation of political violence in America.
Yeah, not an isolated incident. It built upon this disturbing pattern of prior events.
Reported attempts on President Trump's life, the congressional baseball shooting targeting Republicans.
Numerous other politically motivated attacks that have scarred the political landscape recently. It presented this stark, undeniable progression into a more dangerous era.
And the broader societal context. You mentioned masochism earlier.
Yes, some scholars use that term. It describes how society is experiencing prolonged trauma, stress, division. They can become particularly vulnerable to manipulation. Certain ideas, behaviors spread like a contagion.
And this incident, combined with the extreme reaction,
it highlights those vulnerabilities. The collective fear, the outrage, the partisan animosity already bubbling under the surface, suddenly amplified, creating fertile ground for certain narratives, certain behaviors, grief, or celebration to spread rapidly, almost contagiously.
Across online and offline communities, further entrenching divisions, reducing critical thought.
Exactly.
This tragedy also fueled renewed, very personal concerns for public figures across the political spectrum.
Many people in the public eye expressed heightened fears about their safety, just engaging in public discourse, recognizing they could easily become a target for crazy people.
That sense of security, even for those who maybe dismissed threats before, was profoundly shaken.
Brought home the chilling reality that physical harm is now a tangible risk for daring to speak out in this charged climate.
Which brings us back to that question analysts grappled with. When does rhetorical dehumanization cross a line? When does it start creating a permission structure for actual violence?
The sources clearly highlight a strong correlation between the constant demonization, the labels stripping opponents of their humanity,
and the justification of extreme action.
It suggests this dangerous pathway where words, amplified through media, create a psychological environment where violence isn't just contemplated, but actively pursued as a legitimate means to an ideology.
That concept of dehumanization itself was cited so frequently by commentators as a fundamental root cause.
Yeah, when opponents are constantly labeled evil, fascists, Nazis, rather than just wrong or misguided,
it creates the perception they are a justified target.
It effectively removes their human qualities in the eyes of their opponent, makes it easier to inflict harm or celebrate their suffering. That moral barrier to violence just erodes, blurs the lines between rhetorical battles and actual physical harm.
And this dehumanization, it's often dramatically amplified by those echo chambers, right? Tribalist.
Absolutely. The use us versus them narrative frames every single issue as a holy war.
Within those polarized bubbles, empathy for the other, loyalty to the tribe,
which can lead individuals to feel morally justified in harboring extreme hatred and, as we saw, even celebrating violence against those outside their group. It's a self-reinforcing cycle. The enemy is constantly redefined as more monstrous, further cementing the perceived righteousness of one's own side and the necessity of their elimination.
In response to the assassination, there were widespread calls for accountability, for just coming from the highest level.
Right. President Trump, for example, vowed his administration would find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it.
That's a strong statement, indicating a serious intent to pursue not just the shooter, but any perceived enablers or orchestrators.
And what's particularly striking, as we touched on, is the swiftness of consequences for some who celebrated Kirk's death.
The filings.
Yeah, DC Comics writer, game developers, 911 dispatcher, teachers, reportedly fired for their online expressions of joy or justification.
It suggests a growing societal pushback against those extreme reactions, an implicit agreement from certain institutions that celebrating political violence, even verbally, crosses an unacceptable line.
It highlights that tension, though, between the perceived freedom to express extreme views and the growing public demand for accountability for those expressions, especially when linked to real-world tragedy.
So the path forward, deeply divisive. No consensus really emerged from the sources we saw.
Not at all. Some voices passionately called for introspection, a dialing down of rhetoric, a return to passionate yet peaceful debate.
Urging a focus on common ground, respectful disagreement, rebuilding the norms of civil discourse, believing only intentional de-escalation could allow the nation.
But others viewed the internet as unequivocal confirmation of this profound, ongoing war of ideology.
Arguing that civility was no longer possible, or even desirable.
Right, with what they perceived as evil forces. These commentators urged conservatives to fight back with renewed vigor, recognizing coexistence was no longer an option with those who would resort to such violence or celebrate it.
That perspective reflects a belief that the conflict is beyond mere political disagreement now.
Yeah, a fundamental battle for the very values and future of the nation, requiring a combative stance, not compromise.
And then there was that one particularly provocative perspective, arguing the whole left-right divide is often a manufactured scam.
Orchestrated by entrenched power, suggesting these divisions are deliberately fostered by powerful elites who profit from chaos, from discord.
The constant outrage, the tribalism, people outraged and blind, distracts them from common ground, prevents them uniting against the true power brokers who remain untouched.
It posits that the very polarization we see is a tool of manipulation, diverting attention from deeper systemic issues.
So this struggle outcome, as one source put it, it won't be determined by abstract historical.
No, but by the concrete choices and actions of particular individuals. It's about deciding whether to preserve and extend human freedom, respectful discourse, or surrender it for false promises of security that often accompany authoritarian tendencies.
It really encapsulates the critical juncture we're at, where the path we choose is defined by individual courage, collective response, whether we succumb to division or seek a unifying way.
Well said.
So what does this all mean then? We've seen how the tragic assassination Charlie Kirk just ignited this firestorm of emotions, react from profound grief, deep personal loss,
to deeply disturbing celebrations.
All while starkly exposing the deep fault lines in our political and social landscape. It's a stark reminder of the volatile, emotionally charged environment we're navigating every single day.
And this deep dive, it's shown us this event isn't just a singular act of violence. It's a profound mirror, reflecting the intense polarization, the weaponization of language, and the dangerous erosion of shared epistemological foundations in our society. Meaning, the very basic ways we understand and agree on what constitutes truth and knowledge.
When those foundations erode, as sources suggest they have,
people struggle to agree on verifiable fact, leading to a world where, as one source put it, truth itself becomes a casualty. The narratives around this event tell us as much about our society as they do about the event itself.
The intensely varied narratives, the different ways people reacted, it offers a truly stark, unsettling look at the challenge. Finding common ground, maintaining civil discourse, just coexisting in a society with deeply held, often conflicting beliefs. beliefs.
It underscores the fragility of shared understanding in this hyper-connected yet paradoxically fragmented world.
Which raises, I think, an important question for you, our listener.
Yeah. In a world where social media algorithms can amplify outrage, where political rhetoric can be weaponized, and disparate ideologies can, as we've seen, lead to such extreme and tragic action, what is your individual responsibility?
How do you foster critical thinking, actively seek diverse perspectives,
and consciously resist the pervasive forces of dehumanization that threaten to pull us further apart? It's a question, really, we all need to consider for the sake of our collective future and the health of our public square.
Okay, let's unpack. In the sprawling, often kind of tumultuous world of public discourse, a really shocking incident recently sent ripples far beyond just political circles. It left a visible tear, in the fabric of civil society for many who saw it unfold. We're talking, of course, about the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here, and deeply unsettling, isn't just the event itself, it's the sheer multitude of reactions it provoked and the profound questions it raises about how we communicate, how we debate, and critically, how we manage to coexist in what feels like an increasingly polarized world.
Right.
So this deep dive isn't just recounting facts, it's really an exploration. We'll look at the facts, sure, but also into who Charlie Kirk was. We'll dissect the wildly varied, often contradictory public responses and consider the unsettling implications this moment holds for the future of free speech, political engagement, everything.
So our mission today is to try and sift through the intense noise, all the conflicting narratives, the raw emotions surrounding. We'll be drawing from a whole stack of sources shared with us to help you understand the core insights and, maybe some surprising truths that emerge when we look beyond just prepare for some aha moments, I guess, because there's a lot to learn when we confront the deeper. So the tragic event itself, it unfolded in a way that was disturbingly public, amplified the shockwave across and well beyond. Charlie Kirk wasn't exactly a traditional political.
No, not at all. He was an activist, a commentator, a debater.
Right. And he actively sought that direct, especially on college campuses.
Exactly. He was known for it. And that's what put him at Utah Valley University, hosting what was meant to be a free speech event.
Which is just the irony.
It's almost excruciating, isn't it? Such a violent silencing act happening in a forum specifically dedicated to open expression, a place where ideas are supposed to clash, vigorously but peacefully.
Not where lives are cut short.
Precisely. Our sources, reports from the Free Press, clips we saw, stuff from Veridark, they all paint this vivid, chilling picture. Thousands of people there, this vibrant public forum, abruptly shattered.
By a single shot.
A single deadly act. And the immediate aftermath.
Yeah.
Just widespread shock among everyone there. A collective gasp as the horrifying reality sinks in.
And it was caught on video, which is awful.
Truly awful. And that footage started circulating online almost immediately. Sources like Blair White and Theo Von really highlighted how deeply traumatizing seeing that footage was. It etched the horror into the public consciousness because it wasn't hidden. It was overt, public, an assault on a speaker in the very act of speaking.
Wow.
And the details of the attack itself, they speak to a precision, a brutality that really underscored the chilling intent behind it.
Tough.
Well, multiple sources, including Blair White, Better Bachelor, and even analysis from Israeli news outlet C14, describe it as resulting from a single, expertly placed shot.
A single shot.
Yeah. Chillingly described as a sniper shot from 200 meters away, aimed with deadly accuracy, hitting a main artery in his neck. His death was instantaneous, no chance for intervention.
That suggests planning, calculation.
Exactly. It didn't feel like a random act of violence. It suggested something much more calculated, almost professional.
And Charlie Kirk himself, he was so young.
Only 31. A young man, burgeoning career, a growing family. He was a husband, father to two very young children, ages 3 and 1. Oh. And that detail, that deeply personal aspect was emphasized everywhere. Free Press, Riley Gaines, Blair White, Clay Travis, Merritt Kay, The Iced Coffee Hour. It magnified the tragedy for so many people, turned a political assassination into this profoundly personal loss.
You could feel that, couldn't you? Even from a distance.
Absolutely. The emotional impact was immense. We saw sources like Greg Doucette, Simon Korolski describing feelings of deep, almost familial grief. Like a family member or a brother had died. That's how strong the connection felt for many, even people who didn't know him personally, as Theo Von also reflected.
A visceral reminder of the human cost beyond the politics.
Yes.
So in the chaos that followed, the search for the killer, it sounds like it got messy fast.
Oh, absolutely. It quickly devolved into well, a maelstrom of information, misinformation, and, conspiracy theories.
I remember seeing.
Yeah, Dark and Blair White documented how quickly confusion spread. There were early, completely false reports about the shooter's identity, some said an older man. Even confusion about the exact university location.
So fertile ground for speculation.
Exactly. But, in contrast to those rumors, the FBI acted pretty swiftly and decisively. They put up a significant reward, $100,000, for information leading to the killer's identification and arrest. That was reported by C-14 in Israel, showing it was a national priority.
And they did identify someone.
They did. Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old. And that identification came with its own twists. Crucially, his own parents turned him in.
Wow, his parents. That must have been incredibly difficult.
Unimaginable. But it was a deeply courageous act, and as some sources noted, it effectively shut down one key conspiracy theory about him disappearing. It brought some clarity, at least on that front.
Still, just a shocking turn.
And then you get to the clues about motive, and that's where it gets particularly unsettling.
What did they find?
Well, a critical detail that emerged quickly was the ammunition found at the scene. It had messages engraved on it. Pro-trans and anti-fascist messages.
Engraved on the ammunition?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Carefully engraved. This was reported widely. Radical trans women celebrate, Free Press, Better Bachelor, Timcast IRL, Aquarius Wave. And that created this incredibly chilling context, right?
Yeah.
It directly linked the assassination to Kirk's prior public statements.
Especially his views on trans.
Exactly. His outspoken views, his firm stance on what he called biological facts. It strongly suggested a clear, ideologically driven motive.
But wait, you said the shot seemed professional, almost like a sniper, and the shooter was 22.
Right. That's the contrast that immediately raised profound questions. The professional nature of the shot, as described by Blair White and C-14, versus the relatively young age of Tyler Robinson.
So was he acting alone, or was he influenced, trained?
That's the big question, isn't it? This dichotomy fuels so much of the ongoing speculation. And frankly, the deeper concern, was there a wider network involved? We don't know for sure yet.
And then the national significance was really underlined, wasn't it, with the vice president?
Yes, the vice president was present with Kirk's family, and his coffin was flown on Air Force Two to Phoenix for burial. C-14 noted this detail. It signaled the recognition of the profound impact of this event, elevating it beyond politics to a true national tragedy.
Okay, so to really grasp the weight of this, we need to understand Charlie Kirk better. He wasn't just any conservative.
No. Definitely not. He was, without doubt, a dynamic figure, hugely transformative in conservative activism. He was widely seen as the face of Turning Point USA.
Which is massive, right?
Huge.
Yeah.
Massively influential. Positioned him as a key foundational figure in the whole conservative movement.
And his approach was different, unique.
Very unique, often provocative. He wasn't a politician in the usual sense. He was this relentless commentator, a debater. He actively sought out that direct engagement, especially on campus, famously setting up an open mic.
Yeah, I remember seeing clips of that. Challenging students directly.
Exactly. Challenging students, even those totally opposed to him, to debate him publicly. Sources like John Lockley, Vera Dark, Ollie Annisfeld noted this method allowed him to bypass traditional media and connect directly.
And it worked, didn't it? He connected with young people in a way few conservatives had.
He really did. Clay Travis and Riley Gaines both emphasize his remarkable ability to make conservative ideas seem cool, or at least palatable, to a younger crowd. He inspired a lot of first-time MAGO voters, showed his profound impact on a generation that often felt unrepresented in the mainstream. The iced coffee hour also touched on his knack for sparking passionate dialogue.
So what were his core beliefs? What drove him?
Well, delving into his core convictions, you find someone deeply rooted in faith, family, and country. He was an incredibly strong vocal advocate for Christianity, Judeo-Christian values, consistently publicly proclaimed Jesus Christ as Lord. That was fundamental for him.
Yeah, sources like Ollie Annisfeld, Greg Doucette, Simon Carell.
Right. He also championed the traditional family structure, defining marriage explicitly as between one man and one woman.
And his stance on the Second Amendment.
Unwavering. Firmly believed in the right to bear arms for self-defense. Mary Kay, that Star Wars girl, highlighted.
He also had very strong views on biology.
Yes. He was known for his commitment to what he called biological facts, making unequivocal statements like, men cannot be women ever. That particular stance, cited in the story box, often put him directly at odds with progressive viewpoints. And honestly, it fueled a lot of the online anger towards him.
And his views on Israel.
Very strong, deeply held pro-Israel stance. Apparently, he'd visited Jerusalem, showed a deep knowledge of Torah. According to C-14, he stood out even among other conservatives for his fervent support. These weren't just talking points for him. They were the bedrock of his activism.
Beyond the platform, what about him as a person? His drive?
Insights suggest a remarkably driven, energetic individual. Ben Shapiro, writing in the Free Press, described him as having this gritty determination.
Endless energy, boundless enthusiasm.
Exactly, from a young age. And it's fascinating he never went to college. Chosen said to pour all that energy into building Turning Point USA.
His work ethic sounds intense.
Legendary, by all accounts. Riley Gaines and Ollie Annisfeld mentioned he wasn't just traveling the U.S., but the world. South Korea, Oxford.
Wow. Driven by wanting to speak his truth, proclaims.
Seems so. And despite that often combative debate style.
Which definitely got reactions.
Oh, but many sources, Simon Kowalski, Vera Dark, Ollie Annisfeld, Better Batch, they recall he genuinely aimed to foster conversation. Even when crowds were hostile, really vocal against him, he tried to maintain respect.
And that detail about his last word, a call for peace.
The story box mentioned that account. A desperate call for peace amidst the tension. It's incredibly poignant. Really emphasizes his commitment to dialogue, even facing intense opposition. That dedication defined his remarkable, though tragically short, career.
And that dedication, that impact, it led people to think he was heading for
immense political power, yeah. Many believed he was on a clear, accelerating path. Numerous sources, Ben Shapiro again, Riley Gaines, saw him as a key successor to figures like Trump, maybe even the presidency down the line.
So his loss is seen as a huge void for the conservative movement.
Absolutely. A significant void, a powerful what-if for American politics. His unique ability to connect with his generation was undeniable. Riley Gaines said powerfully that he'd done more for my generation than anyone ever in my lifetime in the culture wars.
That's a huge statement.
It speaks volumes about his resonance. And his goal wasn't short-term win. He wanted to turn first-time voters into lifelong conservatives. He had a long-term vision, building an ideological foundation.
So his death wasn't just the loss of a person, but the end of a potential future trajectory for the movement.
Exactly. The abrupt cessation of this burgeoning political force that many thought would redefine conservative America for decades.
Okay, let's shift to the reactions. How did the nation respond? It sounds like a real split.
A vast and often contradictory spectrum, yeah. On one end, this deep, undeniable sense of loss, collective mourning. People were genuinely shocked, heartbroken, felt the heaviness, as Blair White, Theo Vaughn, Simon Kowalski described.
There are some really striking examples, right?
Yeah, Dean Withers, the political commentator, despite disagreeing with Kirk, he broke down in tears on his stream, just overcome by the human tragedy. The story box covered that, and Clay Travis mentioned students dressing up at school to honor him, a touching, organic display of respect.
And beyond his...
Well, many people across political lines expressed that fundamental truth. Nobody deserves to die for their opinions. Murder is wrong, full stop. People like Greg Doucette, Vera Dark, John Loxley echoed this. Even Senator Mark Kelly in the Free Press, while disagreeing with Kirk, staunchly condemned the violence.
A moment of shared humanity, maybe.
For some, yes. But beneath that, there was this deeply disturbing celebration, justification.
Celebration of assassination.
Yeah. It's hard to fathom, but multiple sources described it as egregious and horrible. Influencers, social media users, actively sharing their disdain and celebration. A truly sickening digital landscape emerged.
What were they saying?
Some explicitly labeled him a Nazi, that he deserved to die. That was reported by the storybot, Blair White, that Star Wars girl. The arguments used to justify it were chilling.
How did they even try to justify it?
Some claimed he reaped what he sowed because of his Second Amendment views, twisting his quote about the cost of the amendment.
The one about accepting some gun deaths.
Yeah, cited by Vera Dark and radical trans women celebrate, using his defensive rights to justify his own violent death. Others argued this dangerous progression. Hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful action, implying his speech was equivalent to violence.
That's a terrifying leap in logic.
It's deeply disturbing. Ollie Annisfeld and Mary Kay analyzed this complete dehumanization of political opponents, portraying them not just as wrong, but as fundamentally evil, which then creates this permission structure for violence.
Any specific examples? I almost hesitate to ask.
There was one particularly harsh example from a source titled, "Muslim Woman Celebrates Charlie Kirk Assassination." She said, "I don't feel bad for him. I feel bad for his kids. Yes, he was a bad man, but they're going to grow up with no father now."
Wow. Separating the tragedy from the politics in such a cold, a chilling lack of empathy.
Exactly.
And then the conspiracy theory. This is where it gets really interesting and, frankly, deeply concerning.
Yeah, the swift, almost immediate emergence of these pervasive theories.
Yeah.
Seem designed to divert attention, weaponize the tragedy.
The main one being Israel.
That Israel is responsible for his murder.
Yeah.
A prominent, totally baseless claim that gained traction fast. Astonishingly pushed by some, like Candace Owens, despite Kirk being a staunch, vocal, pro-Israel advocate.
Yeah.
Documented in sources like Candace Owens Blames and Candace Owens Lies.
How is that even possible?
Well, sources like JTV and Mary Kay analyze it as blatant pro-Palestinian propaganda, anti-Israel stuff, leveraging the tragedy for political gain.
Did people push back on that?
Oh yeah, significant and immediate back. Candace Owens faced widespread criticism for promoting it without any evidence. Others explicitly disavowed what they called her mentally ill propaganda. Dave Smith called her out direct.
So a tragedy gets co-opted, twisted, weaponized for totally different narrative, poisoning discourse.
Precisely. It showed how quickly that can happen.
Which brings us to the role of social media, the digital battlefield.
Absolutely pivotal and increasingly problematic. Platforms like X, Reddit, TikTok, Instagram, they became conduits for amplifying extremist views and, disturbingly, for celebrating the violence.
Ben Shapiro called it a disaster area for civic discourse.
Yeah, the free press. And Thea Vaughn had that unsettling metaphor. Algorithms creating echo chamber, filling you with Satan cotton.
Radicalizing vulnerable minds by just feeding them the same stuff.
Exactly. Reinforcing biases, hardening views against any dissent. And this has real, terrifying consequences. Remember that fire survey Maya Solson cited in the Free Press? 34% of college students think violence is okay to stop someone speaking on campus.
34%? That's staggering.
It is. And even worse, a debate at Yale apparently saw a vote affirming political violence as a just means to an end. These ideas are seeping into elite institutions.
And the graphic content, the videos of the actual event.
The constant exposure. Greg Doucette and Blair White noted its traumatizing effect, but paradoxically for some, it also seems to desensitize them to suffering, leading to what Theo Von called expressions of psychopathy and godlessness.
Which raises the question of responsibility, doesn't it? Are these platforms accountable?
That's the critical, urgent question Ben Shapiro and Theo Von both ponder. Morally, maybe legally, accountable for the content, the radicalization, especially when it leads to violence in its celebration.
So where does this leave us? What's the legacy? He's being called a martyr, right?
Almost immediately. A martyr for free speech. Conservative value. Used widely by Trump, as noted by Varaja, Clay Travis. That framing itself carries immense weight, turns the tragedy into a symbol.
And the idea isn't that his message is silenced, but maybe amplified.
That's the strong belief, yeah. Articulated by Konstantin Kisin in the Free Press, by Timcast IRL, that his death, ironically, might embolden others, create more Charlie Kirks, maybe lead to a revolution of people standing up, speaking out. The Storybox, Eric Kay, echoed this.
A powerful, if tragic, testament in his own wish for his legacy.
Simple. I want to be remembered for my faith. Shared by the Iced Coffee app. In light of the martyrdom framing, that resonates even more deeply now. Ties it all back to his core conviction.
But the act itself, the assassination, what does it signify for society?
Some sources, like the Free Press and Eli Lake, call it an assassin's veto.
An assassin's veto?
Yeah. A direct, horrifying assault on the fundamental American value of resolving differences through words, not violence. An attack on democratic discourse itself.
Konstantin Kisin talked about an invisible line crossed.
Yes, comparing the impact to 9/11. A sense that the rules of the game had been permanently altered, that there's no going back, suggesting a new, darker era in our political culture.
Where disagreement becomes potentially lethal.
Exactly. And Timcast IRL observed that Kirk, with his open mic debate, represented an off-ramp, a way to engage even extreme views without violence. His killing suggests that path is now seen as gone for some, leading to palpable fears of civil war.
And the rhetoric portraying opponents as enemies.
That's incredibly dangerous, portraying them as existential enemies or threat. Ben Shapiro made the crucial point that this dehumanizing isn't distributed equally right now, arguing it's overwhelmingly a phenomenon of the left. C14 also voiced this concern. When disagreement becomes existential, it creates that permission structure for violence, erodes the foundations of civil society.
So in response, what are people calling for? What's the way forward?
Diverse, urgent calls to act. Clay Travis, Riley Gaines urged people to be bigger, braver, more courageous in speaking truth, not run and hide.
Don't let fear win.
Right. Others, like Travis and Mary Kay, suggest channeling that anger in your belly into productive change, advocating fiercely, strategically, turning emotion into purposeful action.
There's also a spiritual dimension, man.
Figures like Timcast IRL, Simon Korolsky talk about recognizing a deeper spiritual warfare, turning to faith, emphasizing violence is not the answer. Catherine Boley in the Free Press powerfully reminds us Jesus Christ never picked up a moral imperative for...
And the idea that impact matters more than length of life.
Clay Travis underscored that beautifully. Kirk's 31 years were filled with influence, a reminder that the dash between birth and death is what counts.
What about calls for legal action against incitement?
There's a growing demand for law enforcement, legal system, to act decisively against incitement. Timcast IRL mentioned wanting the government to go after the people attacking people over politics.
Yeah.
But It acknowledges that complex tension between free speech and preventing harm, the need for careful, impartial enforcement, as echoed in analyses from C14.
So looking ahead, cultivating a healthier discourse, that seems paramount.
A societal imperative, really, needs a concerted effort towards de-radicalization, especially among young people who are so vulnerable online. Blair White, Maya Solson, Benjamin Boyce all stress this urgent need.
And leaders have a huge role to play.
Heavy responsibility. Avoid dehumanizing rhetoric. Model restraint. Foster an environment where disagreement doesn't become hatred. Ben Shapiro's insight is key. Specificity is the enemy of violence. Avoid broad generalizations about the other side. Focus on specifics, facts.
Dismantle those permission structures for violence.
Exactly. And there's that belief from KTV that the truth will out. Exposing lies, challenging false narratives, holding people accountable. It's essential for bridging divide.
And this connects back to us, the listeners.
Directly. Catherine Boley poses that critical question. The normal people who just wanted to keep their head down ignored it, and we've now seen the consequence. It's a call for active participation, defending common sense, decency, civil discourse, ensuring this erosion doesn't continue unchecked.
We've definitely delved into a truly sobering event today, one that highlights that fragile line between passionate debate and, well, dangerous division in our society, the assassination of Charlie Kirk and all those varied, often disturbing reactions. It really serves as a stark, unforgiving mirror, doesn't it? Reflecting the deep polarization gripping us right now.
It really does. And this deep dive reveals that critical, undeniable challenge facing all of us. How do we uphold free speech, open dialogue, in an environment where escalating rhetoric and political violence threaten to unravel everything? It raises that crucial question echoing far beyond the headlines. In this world, saturated with information, charged opinions, radicalizing narratives, what is your responsibility? Your responsibility in fostering constructive discourse, resisting radicalization, ensuring words remain our primary, our only legitimate tool for change.
Yeah. As we conclude, it's worth considering that what happened to Charlie Kirk didn't just impact his family, his movement. It touched the core of what it means to coexist in a free society. How will we, as individuals, respond to this chilling turning? Will we let fear dictate silence? Retreat, or will we find new, courageous ways to champion truth, understanding, and that vital spirit of open debate, ensuring it not only prevails, but actually thrives? We're really immersing ourselves in an event that, well, it shocked so many people. It sparked intense debate, and maybe more than anything recently, it really laid bare some deep, deep societal divisions. We're talking about the tragic assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, and we're not just looking at the event itself, but, you know, the whole swirling vortex of reactions, the motivations, the legacy.
Exactly. And our deep dive today, it's really built from a huge range of online sources. We've got YouTube transcripts, commentary, news reports, personal reflections, the whole gamut.
Okay.
Our mission, really, for you, is to pull out the most important pieces of knowledge, the key insights. We want to give you a comprehensive, a nuanced, and really importantly, an impartial understanding of this incredibly complex situation.
Right.
So we'll explore the facts around his death, definitely look into his life, his core beliefs, and then pivot to those reactions. You know, the grief, the calls for unity, but also, frankly, the shocking celebrations.
Yeah, that part is.
It really is. And we'll look at what these polarized responses tell us about where we are as a society right now. And, of course, touch on the political and social issues Kirk championed.
So get ready for a journey that asks not just what happened, but really digs into why it matters and what the implications are for you, for all of us, and our shared future. This is where it gets really interesting.
The assassination and its immediate wake.
So the news of Charlie Kirk's death, it hit the conservative movement and really a lot of people across the country, like a shockwave. Let's start with the core event, the incident itself.
Right. So sources confirm, tragically, Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck.
With a rifle.
And the distance.
Yeah, chillingly precise, estimated 200 yards.
Wow.
And this all unfolded on a Utah college campus, right in the middle of a public event where he was speaking. He was actually giving commentary on what he often called left-wing violence.
The irony there is stark. It is. And reports suggest he died exactly how he lived, really. Publicly speaking what he saw as the truth, trying to bring, as he put it, salt and light into the world and into darkness.
And the personal tragedy, it was amplified, wasn't it? His family was there.
Yes, multiple sources reported that, and it circulated widely. It's just heartbreaking. His wife, Erica, and their 2 young daughters.
Yeah.
Reportedly in attendance.
Oh, my goodness.
Witnessing, along with about 500 college students. I mean, that detail just underscores the immense, unimaginable personal loss, obviously, but also the potential trauma for everyone there.
Absolutely. Imagine being in that crowd, a public forum just erupting into chaos.
Turning discourse into horror. It paints a very, very grim picture of the immediate aftermath.
So in those first few moments, chaos, confusion, conflicting reports flying around online in the crowd. Was he injured? Was he gone?
Yeah, a really tense period of uncertainty before his death was officially confirmed. Understandable, really.
But the investigation, it escalated almost instantly. The FBI got involved very quick. For them, seems like a rapid jump for a campus incident.
That's a key point. It speaks to the challenges of such a high-profile crime. I mean, campus police, local law enforcement, they're crucial first responders, always.
Yeah, sure.
But the sheer magnitude of a public, politically charged killing on a campus, it quickly went beyond their typical resources and, importantly, jurisdiction.
Okay.
So the FBI's involvement was almost inevitable. Sources pointed out the Bureau has that broader jurisdiction, not limited by state line. They have significantly more funding, advanced tech,
right,
and crucial capabilities, like accessing data from platforms like Discourse, which can be vital for uncovering planning or motives.
Digital breadcrumbs.
Exactly. Those capabilities are essential for a large-scale, potentially interstate investigation. It makes federal oversight pretty standard, necessary even, for crimes like this, ensuring nothing's missed.
All right, so the FBI steps in, and pretty quickly they release an image, right? A person of interest.
They did. Sources describe this individual as white, face concealed with dark sunglasses, wearing a black long-sleeve shirt.
Some suggestion of a motif, like a flag or eagle?
Yeah, some reports mention that possibility, along with jeans, white tennis shoes, a dark hat. Standard enough description, but then came more evidence.
The video footage.
Right. Reportedly from a residential camera nearby. It showed the alleged sniper walking away from the scene with what was described as a massive limp.
A massive limp? That immediately sparked theories, didn't it?
It did. Commentators jumped on it. Could it be from concealing a long gun, tucked into pants, maybe affecting their gait? That was the speculation.
And the planning involved became clearer, too, with the sniper net.
Chillingly clear. Photos were released, widely circulated, showing this setup on a rooftop, a direct, unobstructed line of sight right to where Kirk was seated.
So not a random act.
Definitely not. This level of precision suggests careful planning, execution with skill, reconnaissance, calculating angles, distance. It implies the assailant knew what they were doing, well-versed in marksmanship.
And then the alleged motive starts to come into focus based on early reports from sources like Stephen Crowder, Fox News.
Yes. Those reports mention messages found inscribed directly on the recovered gun, and even on the ammunition casings.
On the casings themselves, wow.
Yeah. And these inscriptions allegedly contain symbols, phrases linked to transgender and anti-fascist iconography.
And there was a connection made to another
That's what was particularly unsettling, according to these sources. The iconography reportedly matched findings on a previous Minneapolis shooter's firearm, suggesting maybe a pattern or a shared ideology.
The political fallout was immediate. President Trump reacted strongly.
Very strong. He had a notably close relationship with Kirk, called him like a brother, effectively a Trump child, very personal terms.
Right.
And he publicly condemned the act, called the assassin an animal, the actions disgraceful. And importantly, Trump said he had an indication of the shooter's motivation.
Hinting at political drivers.
Seemed that way. And he speculated about a trained assassin, suggesting a level of professionalism.
And then there were these reports of decoy, people falsely claiming to be the shooter.
Yeah, in the chaotic aftermath, reports surfaced of two other individuals being apprehended, or even declaring themselves the shooter.
Leading to speculation.
That maybe they were distraction, intentionally confusing law enforcement, buying the real assailant time to escape. It's speculation, but it was part of that initial confusing picture.
Now, in this age of social media, tragedies like this just explode with conspiracy theories, and Kirk's assassination.
Sadly, no. Fertile ground.
But some of the big ones were debunked pretty effectively by someone with inside knowledge, right? A former TPUSA security.
That's right. His insights were crucial in clarifying things. Let's take the blood bag theory first. Gruesome idea, suggesting it was staged.
What was the claim based?
It centered on a black dot, visible on Kirk's right chest in some footage. People interpreted it as a hidden blood bag set to explode.
Okay.
But the former guard clarified that was simply Kirk's mic. Standard gear for speakers, especially for online viewers. The visible blood spurt came from his left neck, the entry wound. The force of the shot actually caused the microphone on his right chest to fly off. It wasn't an exploding bag. The physics just don't line up, he argued. A high-velocity impact can create dramatic, misleading visuals.
Right. Okay, that clarifies. What about the ambulance delay theory? Why weren't paramedics right there?
That's a common misunderstanding about security for high-profile individuals. It wasn't a delay, it was protocol. Yeah. Ambulances aren't usually waiting visibly at the event. Instead, security teams pre-plan multiple rapid extraction routes to different hospitals.
Ah, I see.
The principal, Kirk, in this case, is moved fast in their own secure vehicle, often with a medical team on board. Waiting for an ambulance can actually be slower and makes them a vulnerable target. Speed and security are paramount.
Okay, that makes sense. Then there was the video analysis, the ring, switching fingers.
Oh yeah, the frame-by-frame stuff. That was easily explained by people who knew Kirk. He apparently fiddled with a hinged ring constantly, moved it between fingers.
Just a habit.
Exactly. A nervous habit, maybe. So in slowed down and maybe low-res footage, it might look like it's switching fingers magically, but it was just him fiddling, a personal mannerism, not evidence of anything sinister.
And finally, the hand signal. People in the crowd signaling the sniper.
Yeah. Probably the most outlandish and forcefully refuted by the security guys who've been with Kirk for years, people deeply loyal to him.
What was the explanation for the signals?
One instance was just a guy adjusting tight sleeves, a normal gesture. The idea of coordinating a 200-yard shot with vague hand signals from the crowd, the security team called it stupid and conspiratorial.
They were quite adamant.
Very. They stressed that the people closest to Kirk who loved him would never be involved. These theories, they argued, just muddy the waters and disrespect his memory. Focus on the fact, not wild speculation.
The man behind the movement, Charlie Kirk's life and principles.
The shock of the assassination meant. But to really understand the reactions, the legacy, we need to understand the man himself. How did this kid from the Chicago suburbs become such a major force?
It's a pretty remarkable trajectory. Grew up in the suburbs, described himself as naturally conservative, loved America from a young age. His first big goal was actually West Point.
The military academy.
Exactly. But he didn't get in. And he later called that denial one of the greatest things that never happened.
Seeing it as a crucial turning point.
Absolutely. A redirection that set him on this entirely different path.
And what a path.
Yeah.
At just 18, right? 2012, Republican National Convention.
Yeah.
He pitches an idea to a billionaire, Foster Price.
Incredible, isn't it? An 18-year-old with that kind of vision and nerve. His idea became Turning Point USA, TPUSA. The goal from day one, win over young people around conservative ideas.
And he actually built it.
He did, a testament to his drive. But sources say the early years were tough, started incredibly small. For the first 5-6 years, they often struggled just to make payroll.
Really? Humble beginnings.
Very. Operating on a shoestring, sometimes out of coffee shops, it shows immense dedication, persistence. But despite that, TPUSA grew rapidly, became this political juggernaut.
Active on thousands of campuses now.
Yeah, 3,500 high school and college campuses. Known for these high-energy events, sometimes described as having a nightclub at.
Strode lights, music.
Yeah.
Engaging young conservatives.
Exactly. Thousands packing auditoriums. It was designed to be exciting, captivating for that younger demographic.
That kind of growth requires relentless dedication. Eric Trump, who was close to him, called him a unicorn combination, didn't he?
He did. Praise Kirk for having this impossible combination of skills, connecting with youth, running a massive organization, and being a great fundraiser. All three are hard. Doing all three well, rare.
A unicorn.
Kirk's work ethic was legendary. The schedule was brutal. Over 200 red-eye flights a year. Constant travel. 1,200 cable news.
Oh, 1,200.
Astonishing number. It speaks volumes about his commitment. Described as a heat-seeking missile towards his goals. Just poured immense effort into it. That was the engine behind TPUSA's rise.
Beyond the politics and the organization, his life seemed deeply rooted in core belief. Faith was central, wasn't it?
Absolutely central. Not just part of his life, it was the bedrock. He consistently expressed a profound evangelical Christian faith.
He wanted to be remembered.
Courage and faith. Those were the two qualities. He believed Jesus saved his life, the Bible was true, the resurrection was central, non-negotiable.
And it wasn't private. He brought it into his public work.
Very much so. His message, even political commentary, was often infused with evangelization. Some noted it was there even in his final moment. That's how ingrained it was.
And his personal priorities were very clear, very traditional.
Remarkably explicit about it. He consistently said his top 3 priorities were God, his wife, and his children,
right.
In that order.
Underscoring that family-centric worldview.
Exactly. Rooted in traditional values, it underpinned his commentary, his choices, a consistent set of values informing everything.
What's interesting, maybe even seems contradictory to some, is that despite his strong conservative view, he was known for committing to open dialogue, especially on college campuses, which could be heated.
It might seem contradictory, but it was actually a cornerstone of his approach, a point often highlighted, even by some detractors. Kirk seemed to genuinely believe in the intellect and heart of others, even those with fundamental. He actively fostered environments at his events where anyone could grab a microphone, share their view, debate.
He had patience for that. Campus debate.
Commentators often noted his patience of a saint. He wasn't just there to lecture. Sources mention him admitting when he didn't know something, promising to research it, or patiently unpacking arguments.
Trying to educate, find common ground.
That seemed to be the goal. Create a space for intellectual engagement, critical thinking, not just partisan yelling. That commitment to dialogue, even robust dialogue, was a...
Charlie Kirk's political and societal commentary.
Kirk's influence wasn't just about organizing events. He was a prolific commentator. Let's talk about his economic philosophy first. He had some interesting takes on financial literacy.
He certainly did. He saw a big systemic lack of financial literacy education in schools, argued it wasn't just an individual issue, but something that perpetuates poverty and, for him, dependence on government.
And he even speculated about why that might be.
Yeah, he suggested powerful entities like credit card companies might subtly oppose better financial education because, well, it might hurt their business model if people were savvier about debt.
Provocative. Connecting education, societal structure, corporate interest.
For him, financial literacy was fundamental to individual liberty, self-sufficiency.
And his views on actual wealth.
He emphasized that true, sustainable wealth is kind of an exception globally, not the norm. And it's built, he believed, primarily through specific mechanisms: free markets, private property rights, trade, rule of law.
Foundational.
Exactly. And crucially, a decent, virtuous society.
Yeah.
He contrasted this with get-rich-quick scheme. Real wealth comes from principle, effort, lasting value.
So it wasn't just about having rich people, but about opportunity, socioeconomic mobility.
Precisely. He argued the key metric isn't just how many billionaires there are, but how easy it is for anyone to climb the economic ladder. That mobility.
And he thought that was getting harder.
He did. He believed it was becoming increasingly difficult in America. Went into things like regulation, taxes, that lack of financial literacy we mentioned, all hindering the American dream for many.
Moving to more modern assets, he was big on Bitcoin, wasn't he? For a conservative figure, that was maybe a bit unusual at the time.
Remarkably so. He was very, very pro-crypto. Saw Bitcoin as a huge opportunity. Famously said it was more likely to go to 1 million than 0.
Strong confidence. Why?
Several. He saw it as a solution for wealthy individuals needing to park capital securely amidst instability and inflation. He likes its scarcity, ease of transfer, decentralized nature. Believed these features would lead to mass adoption, a new form of sound money.
And on the more traditional side, the national debt.
A huge concern for him. Not a future problem, an existing major crisis. He consistently argued for significant spending cuts.
What was the worst outcome?
Stagnation. Not grow, as he put it. He argued growth, even with debt, is manageable, but the ideal. Robust growth plus aggressive debt reduction. He saw the debt as a moral failing, burdening future generations.
He also wanted more accountability from politicians on their own finances.
Definitely. While he admired politicians who understood wealth creation, he was fiercely critical of what he called grotesque insider trading. Used figures like Nancy Pelosi as examples.
Not just singling her out, but as an example of a system.
Exactly. Saw it as systemic corruption eroding public trust. He strongly supported legislation, like Josh Hawley's bill, mandating quick public disclosure of stock trades by officials, increased transparency, curbed the practice.
And concerns about the U.S. dollar's global standing, de-dollarization.
Yeah, he expressed significant worry there. Argued that what he saw as reckless involvement in conflicts like Ukraine, plus actions like cutting Russia from SWIFT.
The global banking network.
Right, and confiscating Russian dollar.
Yeah.
He believed these actions inadvertently signal to other nations that the dollar might not be a reliable safe haven anymore.
Accelerating de-dollarization.
Exact. Undermining U.S. economic influence. A self-inflicted wound, in his view.
He had this broader theory about Washington dynamics, too.
Yeah.
The warfare and welfare uniparty.
That was a core part of his analysis. His theory was that for the last, say, 30 years, major policy and budget debates often get settled through a kind of unspoken bipartisan agreement.
Between which factions?
The warfare wing focused on military intervention, defense spending, foreign policy, and the welfare wing focused on social programs, entitlement.
So a uniparty where both sides agree to keep expanding areas.
That was his argument, often at the expense of fiscal prudence, individual liberty, and genuine debate on core issues. He felt it insulated the establishment from real challenges to the status quo.
Okay, shifting from economics to societal issues, the declining birth rate, he saw that as critical.
Absolutely critical. Not just a statistic, but a major problem, potentially leading to population collapse in America.
He framed it as a moral issue.
He did, asserted a moral obligation for people, especially young couples, to marry and have children. essential for society, cultural values. He lamented women prioritizing careers often led to unhappiness, citing stats or observations about single women in their 30s being depressed.
A controversial perspective, tying career focus to unhappiness.
Very. It underscored his strong belief in traditional family structures as foundational for societal well-being, national strength. Not just personal choice, but a building block.
And this tied into his views on modern dating.
Direct. He often critiqued what he saw as unrealistic expectations from many women in dating. Focused too much on wealth, appearance, over character, faith, shared values.
His advice?
Advocated for women to prioritize family, marry younger before 25, ideal. And for men to embrace traditional roles, like providing financial. He saw that as a signal of protectability, a very traditional view of gender role.
He also spoke strongly about urban safety, major cities.
Yes. Viewed the inability to walk safely at night in cities like New York, Chicago, San Francisco, LA as a clear failure of governance.
Not inevitable, but a choice.
Exactly. A choice by leaders to be soft on crime. He contrasted it with safer international cities, arguing it was down to progressive policies he saw as too lenient, advocated for stricter law and order.
He debated Governor Gavin Newsom on transgender issues in sports, didn't he? With a surprising result.
That got a lot of attention. During the debate, Kirk highlighted that Newsom, a prominent progressive, actually backpedaled slightly. Newsom reportedly agreed with the sentiment that it was deeply unfair for men to compete in female sport. That moment went viral, surprised many. A rare point of agreement or concession from a major opponent.
His stance on abortion was also faith-based and drew intense criticism.
Fundamentally rooted in his Christian faith, non-negotiable. He famously addressed the incredibly difficult hypothetical of his own 10-year-old daughter being raped.
A horrific scenario. How did he respond?
He chose what he called the harder thing. Stated unequivocally he wouldn't advocate for abortion. His reasoning: evil should not beget evil, shouldn't kill the innocent, even facing such tragedy.
A position critics used against him.
Often. To villainize him, accuse him of lacking compassion, despite his framing it as prioritizing faith, even in immense personal hardship. It was a deeply polarizing stance.
And finally, gun control. Uncompromising views there.
Fierce advocate for armed guards in school. Made the comparison. We protect stadiums, airplanes, banks. Why not schools?
Protect the kids like we protect valuables.
That was his argument. He asserted school shootings are primarily a mental health problem, not mainly a gun problem. Focusing only on guns misses the root cause, he believed.
And he pointed to areas with strict gun laws.
Often having high gun violence rates. Challenged the common narrative. Advocated for mental health intervention and robust on-site security.
Reactions, reckonings, repercussions.
Okay, now let's turn to the reaction. Powerful, polarizing, sometimes deeply disturbing. First, the condemnations of violence, the calls for civility. Those came from across the spectrum, right?
They did, thankfully. Figures from both sides spoke out quickly. House Speaker Mike Johnson urged leaders, everyone with influence, to condemn violence and vow to settle disagreements in a civil manner.
A necessary message.
A deeply needed theme, trying to de-escalate things after such a shock. A plea to return to respectful engagement.
And Pastor Lyle Phillips urged to focus on humanity, not politics.
Yeah, a really poignant reminder. Encourage people to view it first as a human tragedy. Mourn with those who mourn, he said, focusing on commonalities being human, a spouse, a parent. An appeal to empathy, shared loss, beyond the political fray.
But others, like Officer Tatum, rallied Kirk's supporters. Don't let this silence the movement.
That was a galvanizing message. Urged supporters not to let the assassination seem like a win for those who wanted Kirk's silence. Frame it as an impetus. Step up and fill the gap.
Turn loss into renewed commitment.
Exactly. Strengthen the legacy, amplify the message.
But here's where it gets really disturbing. Amidst the mourning, there were also documented celebrations, justifications. Some commentators called it the left's depravity.
It's stark, uncomfortable, but documented across online platforms. Numerous videos, posts, people openly celebrating Kirk's death. Comments like, happy, goodbye, that's good.
Chillingly simple.
And then much worse, someone had to do it. Talk of eradicating cancer, mourning the loss of one cancer cell, referring to Kirk. A profound dehumanization.
And they often tried to justify the assassination.
Frequently, by labeling Kirk a Nazi, bigot, racist, arguing he deserved to die because of his views on abortion, gender roles, whatever.
And drawing comparisons.
Some drew what critics called false equivalent, comparing Kirk's assassination to, say, ICE deport, trying to put them on a similar moral plane, seen by many as a deeply distorted rationale for political violence.
Critics pointed to selective empathy.
Indeed. Across platforms, commentators noted this perceived selective outrage. Many celebrating Kirk's death were often silent on other violent shootings, attacks on figures they disagreed with.
A double standard.
That was the art. Empathy applied selectively based on a critique of hypocrisy in acknowledging suffering.
Some observers suggested this reflected a cultist mind.
They did. Argued the intense, dehumanizing rhetoric, the celebrations, it went beyond mere political disagreement. Called it a cultist mindset, a loss of humanity, where ideology trumps life, civil discourse.
Making rational argument difficult.
Almost impossible, they suggested. Described some as followers of the permanent revolution, always seeking radical transformation, prioritizing ideology over individuals or civil.
But these celebrations often had real consequence. Freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from consequence.
A crucial distinction learned quickly by many. Several who publicly celebrated faced professional repercussions. A comic book writer, others identified by online sleuths, reportedly fired.
Employers cited liability, lack of emotional intelligence.
Exactly. Showing that public online behavior has real-world workplace implications now. Consequences moved beyond social media outrage to livelihoods.
And the Irish witch practitioner, that was unusual.
Broadened the scope of repercussions. Celebrated Kirk's death, faced backlash. Pagan Ireland distanced themselves. Complaints from a local priest showed condemnation went beyond typical political lines, touching on broader community and ethical standards.
Even Stephen King faced backlash.
Significant consumer backlash. Belfast Books pulled his books after he made, then retracted, a false claim about Kirk advocating stoning gays. His latest movie, reportedly bombed, showed celebrity doesn't grant immunity from accountability for controversial statements.
And underpinning this accountability, the internet sleuths.
A decentralized network, actively documenting, reporting those celebrate, using publicly available info screenshots, profiles to identify people, employers, led to job losses, even arrests in countries with stricter speech law, showcase the permanence of online content and the power of motivated online community.
Beyond individuals, the assassination impacted the conservative movement, faith in America, seen by supporters as a catalyst for a Christian Great Awakening.
Many commentators, especially in conservative circles, saw it that way. Not silencing, but igniting. Reports, anecdotes of a surge, churches packed across America, seen as a backfire against forces of evil, martyrdom strengthening the movement.
And TPUSA itself reported massive growth.
Almost unbelievable claims, 18,000 new chapters in a matter of one day. Whether the number is exact or not, it indicates a powerful perception of amplified message, renewed commit, tragedy galvanizing the base.
And some people actually left the Democratic Party over this.
That's right. Some longtime Democrats publicly announced their official divorce from the party, cited disillusionment, the reactions to the assassination, perceived the party as shifting towards something demonic and barbaric, indicated a real ideological realignment for some.
And a feeling the cultural pendulum had swung.
A palpable sense among many that concepts like DEI, woke ideology, men and women's sports were now considered dead or discredited in public discourse, a belief that public opinion had decisively shifted rightward.
And for many individuals, a personal reaffirmation of faith.
Absolutely. Beyond politics, many turned to prayer, re-engaged with faith, a way to process the tragedy, seek comfort, find meaning in a divisive, challenging time, a return to core beliefs for strength.
Finally, we have to acknowledge the personal grief, the impact on his family. His widow, Erica Kirk, gave a powerful speech.
Profoundly poignant, became central to the narrative. She emphasized Charlie's belief in God's design for marriage and the family as his greatest joy, urged young people to pursue marriage, family, a eulogy, but also a call to action reflect.
And that heartbreaking anecdote about their daughter.
Devastating. Their 3-year-old Gigi asking, "Where's Daddy?" Erica's response, "Daddy loves you so much. He's on a work trip with Jesus so he can afford your blueberry budget." Gut-wrenching blend of comfort, faith, explaining the inexplicable, a window into their private grief.
But also defiance in her speech, commitment to his legacy.
Palpable defiance, inspiring to supporters, stated the evildoers responsible have no idea what they have done, implying his legacy, his movement, would only strengthen. Not an end, but a catalyst. His message living on.
What an extraordinary and sobering journey this deep dive has been. We've really tried to unpack the facts around Charlie Kirk's assassination, explore his life's work, his faith, his values, and then grapple with those incredibly polarizing reactions.
Yeah, from deep sorrow and calls for unity to those really shocking self.
We also touched on the implications for political talk, free speech, that unexpected resurgence of faith and activism for many.
And this deep dive, drawing on so many sources, it really holds up a mirror, doesn't it? Shows a society grappling with its core value, facing intense ideology.
You heard how one man's death reflected our deepest division, and for many became this undeniable justifiable call to action or a return to fundamental belief. It forces all of us, really, to confront some uncomfortable truths about where we are.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for you, listening right now, trying to navigate this complex world? In an age where information flies so fast, often selectively, where passions are so high, how do we find the truth?
How do we maintain civility? How do we talk to each other, even when we deeply disagree, without resorting to the extremes?
Right. What responsibility do we each have to shape a public conversation that allows for real dialogue, not justifying violence or celebrating suffering?
This isn't just about one man's tragic end. It's a profound look at the challenges, the divisions, the critical choices we all face.
It really asks,
Yeah.
what kind of society are we building? What stands out to you as you reflect on all this? Something to really think about.